Alright everybody, this is Steven Butler back with another inking video that I thought that I would do up and show you guys a little bit of my process while I'm inking this Spider-Man commission for a guy. This is one that I'm doing for a fan in Italy here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start inking. And I want to ink the body first. I'll ink this background later. I'll probably do it off camera, and so you can see it at the end of the video. But just so you can see what's going on here. And I'm just going to start inking. And I ink old school. I've studied old comics pretty much all my life. And when I say old comics, I mean comics of the Bronze Age, which would be, I guess Bronze Age started in the either late 60s or early 70s and went through the I guess through the 80s, I guess would be considered Bronze Age comics. Somebody that's more of a true comic historian will, I'm sure, dispute that, but I know I started working in comics in 1989, and in my mind the Bronze Age was already over and done with by then. There were a lot of other things that came out, don't get me wrong. There were plenty of great color comic companies that came out. In fact, whenever I started working in comics, I didn't start at Marvel or the bigger companies. I started working for a and probably one of the premier independent companies out there, and that was First Comics. And of course, it was toward the end of their publishing life. I worked for them started in 1989, and worked for them for about a year and a half, I guess, until they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Which a lot of the companies did around that time. Actually, they lasted longer than I think quite a few others. But I really enjoyed working for them. I learned a lot by working there. I worked with a great writer by the name of Mike Barron, who I had already knew who he was because I'd followed so many of the things that he did. But I was doing a book called The Badger with him, which was his character. And had a lot of fun with it. It was very action-oriented. It was a crazy book, but it was very action-oriented. A lot of kung fu, martial arts type of action in it. And like I said, I worked on that for about a year and a half, I guess, before I started. I got on it at Marvel, and I got on at Marvel in a kind of a crazy way, I guess, because I had not even thought about submitting to them. I loved the Marvel stuff, and it was at a time, 1989, there was a lot of stuff going on, and then you had other guys like Dale Keown was working on the Incredible Hulk, kind of breathing new life into that title. It was an exciting time. There was there seems like there was excitement in the air. Anyway, I'm just telling you all of this to tell you that there was like a palpable sense of something's going to happen, in the air. It was a lot. It was an exciting time to be in comics for me to start working, in comics, and so I was determined to, make a name for myself. But also, I knew even then that it was a job, and it was a job that the more I did, the better, the better I got, and the better I got, hopefully that would reflect in my in my paycheck. And so I just continued working for First until went to a convention with some of my friends, and it was in Chicago. It was the Chicago Comic-Con, and I met quite a few of the it was one of the first big conventions that I'd ever been to, and I remember meeting several of the artists and editors and stuff at Marvel, and I remember meeting I think it was Fabian Nicieza, and he told me that he liked my work. He had seen it on the Badger for First, which showed me that those guys actually paid attention to what the independent guys were doing. And he said that he liked my stuff on there, but he would like to see me do some samples of Marvel stuff. He said, "I tell you what, gave me his contact info and said, if you do some samples and send them my way, I guarantee you that I will look at them." And so I said, "Wow, that sounds great." Meanwhile, I wasn't off of the Badger book or anything. I was still drawing that, and I was contemplating how in the world am I going to do both, especially since at the time First wanted to sign me to a contract to work with them, but it didn't take long before wheels were set in motion that their bankruptcy happened, and it opened the door for me to be able to submit some stuff to Marvel. And I can remember this was 1990, or maybe it was late 90, early 91. I can't remember. But anyway, all I know is I remember doing some submissions to Marvel, and I think I did some DC samples as well. And I remember doing them, taking a couple of days, like a week, to do like 5 or 6 pages just on spec. I just made something up. I didn't have a script to follow or anything, but I knew how to tell a story, and I knew the characters, and so I think I did an Alpha Flight submission. I don't know whatever happened to those pages. I'm sure somebody got them somewhere down the road, but I did an Alpha Flight submission and sent it, and I made it, and I sent it to Fabian and maybe one other guy that I had met at the show. I can't remember, but anyway, I remember sending them out on a Friday and then getting a phone call the next Monday, and it was one phone call was from Fabian, and I think the other one was from Howard Mackey, who was the editor of Avengers West Coast, I think, at the time. So basically what happened, I got two freelance penciling jobs in one day, and the one that Fabian wanted me to do was a X Factor annual. So I think it was I guess it would have been the X Factor 91 annual, and it was a backup. I remember it had the Blob and Pyro in it. Those guys were fun to draw, and then the other one was an Avengers West Coast issue 61, maybe 61. I can't remember. And it had all the characters in it: Iron Man, Wonder Man, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Tigra, whatever her name is, and several of the other characters. And I really enjoyed doing that. And I remember the day that I started drawing the Avengers West Coast issue was the first. It's the first day of the first Gulf War that happened. I remember I was up all night, and at the time my TV was on because I wanted to hear what was going on, but my TV was in another room. This was before the days of cell phones or anything like that, and I remember having to get up every now and then whenever they would be talking about something, or they would have video or something. I would get up to see what was going on, and then spend the rest of the time drawing. But I stayed up that whole night working. I was so excited. But those were the days. That was a lot of fun. And I spent that whole year, the whole rest of the year, working for Marvel as a freelancer, doing, you would call it working in the trenches. I worked for a lot of different editors. I did several Spider-Man fill-ins. I did some Punisher fill-ins. I did a couple of issues of a mini-series called Double Dragon, which was based on a video game, and I think they even made a movie about it, and maybe an animated series. But Marvel had the comic book license to it, and so I did a couple of those. I remember drawing Stan Lee as a character in one of those issues. It was pretty crazy. But the more work I did, prove that I could draw the characters, prove that I could, get work done on a deadline. It it editors look for that type of thing. At least they did back then. I'm sure they still do. They still do now. And it afforded me the opportunity to work on a lot of different properties. And then I got the call to work on a brand new title that they were developing called Silver Sable. And I knew who Silver Sable was. I knew kind of her background from the Spider-Man, the Amazing and Web of, and the Peter Parker, all the different Spider-Man titles where she was a guest star in. And I remember I had to try out. I didn't just, hey, you get the job. It didn't happen that way. I remember I had to try out, do some pages again on spec, which means you're doing them in order to get the job. You're not getting paid for doing the work. At least not yet. I think I did get paid because they used some of the artwork that I did for the Silver Sable pages. They used some of the artwork to. I think they made like a passport or something out of it, like you were getting a passport from the country that Silver Sable was representing. Simcaria, man, I'm pulling out. I can't remember so much of this stuff. I think it was Simcaria. I remember it was a a fictitious European nation that was bordering Latveria, where Doctor Doom lived, and I remember that because she visited Doctor Doom and got into wound up being like a 2-issue thing in her own series. And anyway, weird how things like that can trigger a memory. But anyway, I'm talking while I'm inking, and I'm not even talking about what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going down memory lane. I'm hoping that what I'm doing here, you're able to at least get a feel of how I go about working. What I'm doing right now is, you see me doing these line, I don't even know if you'd call them line jots maybe, or whatever, where I start with a pointy end, and then I kind of pull and drag it, and I'm layering them one after the other, and I'm getting smaller and smaller. That's called feathering, and in this case it's used to show the roundness of an object that has like dark cloth, and I'm creating basically a form and a shape and a shadow area at the same time. And it's pretty much how I've always drawn Spider-Man. Spider-Man hasn't always looked this way, and I don't even know what he looks like now. I don't think he even looks like this anymore, not really. But I remember back in the early days when I first started reading Spider-Man, back when guys like John Romita Sr. and Ross Andru was drawing the book, the Amazing Spider-Man book, which at the time was the only Spider-Man comic. This was early 70s, guys, so I'm dating myself every time I open my mouth here. The blue areas of his costume, you wouldn't see all this black in it. You wouldn't see it being as dark as it is. You would just see a little bit of his muscles delineated, and it would be completely blue. So his Spider-Man's costume was more just red for the webbed parts, and then blue for the non-webbed parts. But somewhere down the road that changed, and his suit started getting darker in the blue areas. And so by the time that I was working at Marvel, he had pretty much been established that was his look. And so every artist does their own little thing. Of course McFarlane came in, and we really changed things up with the way he looked, and I'm much more of I guess you would say a standard classic Bronze Age style artist. And so the way I do things is going to skew more toward the classic look. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing here. And all right. Okay, guys, I am back, and as you can see, I've been working on the figure, and I've pretty much gotten all of the outline done, and all of the delineated shadows and things. But now, what I thought that I would do, show you a little bit about, would be how I draw or how I ink the webs. They're pretty much drawn in as they are, but I'm going to be inking the webs for the Spider-Man's costume right now. So. Let's go. Alright guys, through the magic of video editing, you are now going to see the finished Spider-Man commission piece that I finished off camera, but that I'm going to be showing you as of right now. And here he is. This completes this commission. The client wanted it in black and white, and so that's why you can see in here that I went in and did a lot of cross-hatching effects, which I probably wouldn't have done had it been intended to be in color. I would have done a lot of that I would have shaded it with different shades of color, grays and blues and reds and other colors like that. But since it was going to be in black and white, and I wanted him to stand out from the background, I went ahead and did some cross-hatching work in the windows and in the sides of the buildings, just to differentiate him from the background. And so that's it. This whole thing took probably the bulk of the day. I'd say a good 5, maybe 6 hours goes into that, and that's kind of typical for a one character with background commission that has a little bit of background in it. And so anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. I'll probably be doing I'll need to be doing some more of these because you guys have requested them. So I'm going to start doing more of these videos where I am basically just talking about what I do whenever whenever I do these commissions. So thanks again so much for watching, and stay tuned for more in the near future. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.